welcome back to another episode of the Idiots Football Show. We're back for another post-Thanksgiving episode here. I'm idiot number one, your host, Zach, as always. We have returning idiot number two, Adam.
Good evening, everybody.
And returning idiot number three, Goodman.
What's up?
So we'd like to welcome you guys back to the podcast. We hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving weekend, really got to enjoy it, see your family, really get to watch a lot of football, have a good time. Now, we're not going to be talking about the Thanksgiving games here, but we are going to be talking about our normal slate of games between our favorite teams. We're going to go a little bit into that, a little bit of a team preview. Then we have another player on the free agency market we really want to dive into, talk a little bit about. And then after that, we'll also share the theme of the week. But to start off this episode, boys, I really want to talk about our picks from last podcast episode together. Where we all had a lock of the week for the Thanksgiving games. Now, I got to say, we were 2 for 3.
It was not bad. It looked good the whole day.
That's
66.6% right
Hey, that's pretty good, especially for betting odds, man.
Yeah.
I'll take 66%. So, obviously Zeke anytime hit, Thielen anytime hit, and really the only one that it seemed close, but it never could truly happen was the Tony Pollard anytime TD.
Yeah.
It happens. What are you going to do, Goodman? But, we'll have to have another lock of the week soon for you guys. So, let's get right into it. First, we're going to talk about the Eagles versus the Packers, baby. Very exciting game. Awesome way to have your Sunday night football. This is one of the best games I've seen all year. It really has been. It was a very, very exciting game. This looked like a very competent Packers team compared to the way they've played this past season. And really, it was a thriller. I had a great time watching it. Sadly, I had a couple bets that did not hit, a couple long leg parlays that came awfully close. But Rodgers getting hurt really did screw me at the end. But besides that, we really got to see an awesome display of Jalen Hurts this game. He ran for more yards than he passed for, but rushing for 157 yards is no small feat.
You can't ask for anybody. You can't ask for anything more for that.
No, you really can't. And this is a guy who ran for over 100 yards in the first quarter alone. Yeah. In a singular quarter, he ran for over 100 yards. That was unbelievably impressive. And this was a game that we really thought that, both teams were going to really have to run the ball heavily because both defenses, they haven't been the greatest in the run defense category here. They're more middle of the pack compared to every other statistic where both these teams are a little bit ahead of the top 15, if not, like the Philadelphia Eagles, more in the top 10, top 5 for some of these rankings.
Definitely.
But we really got to see a very, very fun and exciting game. We saw Miles Sanders finally blossom. They said, you know what? Let's run the ball. Let's finally use Miles Sanders.
You use your best running back that you have, and look what it did. He had a great game, and obviously they should keep doing that more. The fact that they hadn't for about the 3-game skid last 3 games kind of blew my mind, and it shocked everybody. Now they actually use him, goes for 143 yards. It shows that he's your best running back.
That's what I'm saying. Well, actually, I really do think our best running back may be Jalen Hurts. But I gotta say, I actually really did enjoy the usage of Miles Sanders this game. I really got to see him get used. We saw a little bit of Kenneth Gainwell, him be effective with his 8 rushes and 40 yards, scoring a touch. Really, really getting it done on the ground this game. Very exciting. We even saw Jalen Hurts, as a passer. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He looked pretty competent. It was a very, very good game for us. We saw AJ Brown, not look as good. He's been a little bit on a skid. I know he scored a touchdown, but he hasn't looked like the same AJ Brown we've seen.
Yeah.
For the beginning of the season where he was just dominating every single cornerback that he got into contact with.
Well, I think you're going to see more double teams, right? I mean, that's what's inevitably going to happen when teams see a guy get the ball as much as he did. And that's why you've seen Devontae Smith kind of come out of the woodwork and be a lot better than he was at the beginning of the year. He was a guy who, kind of struggled last year, and he's been, certainly a lot better in this almost second half of the season now because he's gotten more targets because A.J. Brown's been double covered more often. So I think that's all important stuff right there for A.J. Brown. And he comes up clutch when needed. He got a touchdown. He had a long catch of 23. Still a good game. It's not one you can complain about.
First downs. I mean, obviously we see a little bit of ball security issues with him. This is the second game in a row. I believe he's fumbled the ball. So, that's something that makes me a little hesitant.
Yeah.
Is he okay? Is he really healthy? But it's going to be exciting moving forward, and we even did see the Packers have a very, very good game. They played very well. They did the best that they could do. They ran the ball, but clearly not nearly as effective as Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We saw really how having a running quarterback can truly change the dynamic of the game and how how that quarterback can then take over and really make the defense a whole nother defense. Totally to piece them and take them apart limb by limb.
That's how you're seeing the NFL move towards now. If you do not have a quarterback that can't just at least escape the pocket, you're going to not have a good team. You look at the Bucs, who are not doing as well with Tom Brady, the Packers with Rodgers, the Colts with Matt Ryan. You need a mobile quarterback. That being said, if you told me, I stepped away from the game for about 5 minutes in the first quarter. I come back. I thought it was the end of the half. Looking at it at a 14-13 game, 2 touchdowns each team. That was all in the first quarter. That blew my mind. This game was a very great primetime game to watch.
Yeah. One of the better primetime games of the year.
Plenty of scoring in the first quarter, and it got better.
Yeah, this game made me some money too. Can't complain. This game made me around $200, so I can't complain. I felt pretty good about that Christian Watson touchdown that ended up coming through. He seems to be, to go to the Packers for a second here, he seems to be the guy for Aaron Rodgers right now. We've seen Christian Watson kind of come out, and obviously he's a rookie, and it took a little bit of him growing into the NFL.
Not even just that, also he had to get back from injury. He's been fighting injury all
exactly,
season.
And now you see him 110 yards in this game and a touchdown, and that's been something he's been doing week to week now, where he's putting up big yardage numbers, big touchdown numbers. This guy is a real threat for them. They finally have a receiver. It's been, all season they've been looking for a guy, and now it's finally Christian Watson. Randall Cobb, he's still getting touchdowns somehow, still gets targets because he has that chemistry with Aaron Rodgers that's, frankly unreal. But you've seen Watson be really, really good. And the Packers, they're 4-8 right now, but they are a much better team than the 4-8 shows. Aaron Rodgers, looks like he's going to play this week. That's a really big, important thing for them. And it looks like, Christian Watson is their guy now. So I think the Packers could easily, with Aaron Jones, with A.J. Dillon, with all the guys they have, make a run here at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's really too bad that Aaron Rodgers had to step away in that game. I really only needed him to, throw for another 40 yards, so winning $100. But hey, it may hurt, but nothing is better than a Philadelphia Eagles win. Now, I do have one more thing to add before we move on. We did see that Eagles cornerback and also leading interception man C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down with a kidney injury, actually a kidney laceration from a hit that he laid on in the middle of the field. I was a little shocked to see that, but as someone who's lacerated my spleen, I understand how the rib cage works, and it's not always a fun time. But this is going to be a huge loss for the Eagles moving forward. It really is. This is a guy who's been so great for them in coverage and really has unlocked that secondary and really made them not just a good secondary but an elite secondary in the NFL.
If there's a position you least want to lose a player in, it's the secondary.
Oh yeah.
Because up front on the O-line, D-line, you can fill in as long as you play solid. You'll be fine. If you lose somebody in the secondary, you lose so much communication. You lose so much of skill. It's a very skill-based position. Yeah. When you have to go downgrade to a DB, it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna see that hurt for a couple of games. Whoever your backup is after that, he's gonna take a while to play more games and finally get back
kind of just readjust,
Yeah.
Hey, you saw the Ravens starting Robert Jackson last year as the number one corner when Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, Anthony Averett, they were all out. They were down to about their 7th, 8th, and 9th string corner at one point. Robert Jackson was that 7th stringer starting for the Ravens. You saw right there how important secondary depth is. You've got to have secondary depth, guys that can run, guys that can play, and they just didn't have that last year. And that's hopefully not what either of these teams are going to run into, but it's a really tough thing to come out of. You really have to climb out of it and find diamonds in the rough, really, is what you got to do. It's a very, very tough position to replace.
100%. We saw Eagles backup cornerback / safety Reed Blankenship, come into this game. He did get an interception, but did seemingly make some costly penalties, being one of those guys that got multiple penalties throughout the game. Really, we really could see that kind of quality in that position and what C.J. Gardner-Johnson really does bring to Philadelphia. Now to move on, because, we're going to be talking about this Eagles team again. We're going to see them play the Tennessee Titans next week. Probably the hardest test they've had up until this point in the entire season.
Yeah.
And, I'm very excited because, you know what? This is going to be a game where possibly, we see Jordan Davis come back into the Eagles lineup, which would be unbelievably huge to stop, probably the best running back in the entire league in the King. Derrick Henry's been such an effective runner this year. We really saw him break out last week, have 48 fantasy points, absolutely dominate the other team. This is going to be a very interesting game for Philadelphia because this is a team who plays stout defense. They know what they are. They run the ball. They play that type of offensive style that the Commanders played a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That really ended up dominating and giving the Eagles their first loss. This is the exact play style that not only the Titans play, but what they excel in. So I think it's going to be very interesting moving forward here to see how this game goes.
No, what the Titans are so good at is the play action game. They've become so good at faking people out with Derrick Henry, because that guy, you have to really stack the box to get someone to stop him. He's so big, he runs over 3 or 4 guys at a time, to then have to worry about play action too. And Ryan Tannehill, he's not a great quarterback, but he's an average quarterback who can get the job done in a lot of situations. They scare people when they start running a good and effective play action game. So I would be a little concerned as an Eagles fan, seeing what the Eagles have been able to do against the run and their failures there, that they're going to be able to prepare for Derrick Henry while also watching out for play action and what they can do with the secondary. So it's a rough matchup for the Eagles, but they are such a good offense, such a strong offense, that I really doubt they lose this one. But it'll be a tight game.
It's definitely going to come down to, you're going to stack the box and you're going to have to rely on your 2 corners to play man-to-man coverage probably the majority of the game, which they can definitely do, but that's going to be the game.
Yeah.
I think the really big thing for Philadelphia coming up this next week is really going to be, whoever wins the turnover battle, I think is going to end up winning this game. These are 2 very good teams. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They really are effective where they need to be. And I really think, the Eagles being a top turnover team in the NFL, I think that this is going to be really an advantage that I hope shows its face, because without it, I don't think they're going to be able to really win this game. I really think that's going to be something very, very important coming up.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to the Dolphins game. I mean, we saw the Dolphins play the Texans this week. Really, it was kind of a wash of a game. They took control of it very early, 30-0 at one point, taking out players like Tyreek, really making it easy for the other team. We saw the Texans really not be able to do much until the very end of the game, where it was very, garbage time touchdowns. Nothing really mattered at that point. So what we're going to do is, Adam, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
Next game, please. 5-game win streak. I don't care about the stats. I don't care. We beat them. We covered the spread. That's what honestly made me happy. And that's it. Next game.
Fair enough. So now we're going to go into the preview for the Dolphins next week, and they're going to be taking on the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very, very interesting game. A very good game for both teams. We saw Christian McCaffrey, have some ankle injuries after last week's game versus the Saints. I wonder how this is going to affect him versus Miami. He really is the lifeblood of that offense, and we've seen since they have acquired him how important he is to the 49ers offense, and really their ability to move the ball up and down the field, score touchdowns. Really, their entire offense is now running through Christian McCaffrey, and I think it's going to be a very interesting dynamic to see how healthy he is for this game. Now, Adam, I really want your opinion here.
This is going to be a neck-and-neck game, one-score game the whole time. Whether it be, I can't tell you if it's going to be a nice low-scoring defensive battle or if it's going to be a 30-30-plus game. That's the only thing I can tell you. But both teams are run very similarly. McDaniel's coming from the 49ers. This is the biggest. Might be behind the Bills. This is the biggest test that the Dolphins are going to get for the remaining of the season. And I think if we can come out on top of the 49ers, that shows a lot about who we really are and what kind of team we are built. That shows that we can actually be a playoff contender for multiple games.
I think something that's a little bit important to look at this game is really, the 49ers are probably one of the top 3 teams in the NFC, and looking at that roster, how good they are, how good they've played as of late, I think that this is going to be I don't like to say it as an Eagles fan, but I think this could be a potential Super Bowl matchup in the making, very early in this season. And I think that you're really going to get to see a great football game being played. We see old 49ers OC. What's your head coach's name? Mike Daniels. So we're going to see him, go up against his old 49ers, his old ball club. We're going to see 2 running backs that they've taken from the Niners, and Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Are they in the Finns Dome? Or are they traveling over to the
traveling 49ers 4:00 game?
All right. So it's gonna be very interesting. They're back in Levi Stadium. Used to be Candlestick Park. Better stadium when it was Candlestick. But that's okay.
It'll be a fun game. I'll watch every second of it. I'm excited. After a couple of just nothing games for the Dolphins, I'm really excited for this.
I think for them to win, it's really going to be on the backs of Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle. It's not going to be any different from any other game plan they've had all season. It's really going to be get the ball to those 2 dudes on the edge, in space, out in the open. Let them run. That's the thing that has really excelled this Dolphins team, and I think that's going to be how they have to play if they want to win this game.
Real quick on the Niners, I do think they're a little overrated still. They're a great team, and they're stacked at basically every position, but Jimmy Garoppolo is a liability. I still believe that. And I'm not saying they would have been better with Trey Lance because he's somehow a worse quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo is. But I don't believe in them to be a Super Bowl contender at the moment. I want to see Jimmy Garoppolo put together 5 or 6 games where he's really, really good before I call him that. And I think that's a tough matchup for him. The Dolphins defense, they haven't had the best pass rush this year, but they're still a really good defense. They're still a really scary defense, especially in the secondary. I don't know, man. I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
That's a very interesting thing because, obviously it was all over social media this week. Jimmy Garoppolo's overall record being 40-19, that's something I think is a little bit understated because this is a guy who, regardless of his stat line, understands what it takes to win games. And at the end of the day, yeah, you might call him a bad quarterback, you might call him this, you might call him that. But you look at some of these other teams that have been successful this season, like the New York Giants. I look at them as a potential landing spot for Jimmy G next season if he doesn't return to the 49ers. I even look at the 49ers and go, do you really want to get rid of this guy and start Trey Lance now? Or do you want to give him a little bit more of the Jordan Love treatment? Let him just kind of sit and bake in that offense and get a little bit better, get a little bit more seasoning on him. Really, really, freshen him up and get him ready to serve him like a beautiful Thanksgiving turkey rather than bringing him out a little too half-baked, I really want to see this guy be, the best version of Trey Lance that Trey Lance can be. But I don't know if he's going to end up being a better overall player, really get you more wins than a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who really does understand the game and just knows how to win, which is more important than any other stat in the entire book.
He's not a game manager, not one of those quarterbacks where he's just kind of, letting the team carry him along. But he's a solid quarterback that I don't believe is a Super Bowl quarterback at the moment. That's just where I'm at with him.
As I said before, the league is turning into quarterbacks that need to be mobile, that need to get out of the pocket. That's why the 49ers want to move off of him, and I don't blame them for that. Trey Lance, on the other hand, who knows who? No, he's played no games. He's played like a game and a half in his NFL career.
He played,
like
he
5
played
games
a bad
in
weather
college.
game, and then he also played. He barely played in the next game he played. So I really want to see what he looks like. On a game where it's not literally hailing and raining and just absolutely a miserable mess of a football game. I want to see him in a game where he's able to uncork a ball for 30 yards, for 60 yards. I really want to see how he plays when there are no attributes holding him back.
There's not enough NFL, not even enough college film on this kid to realize how good or bad he is. So he's just an enigma at this point.
That I could definitely agree with. So now we're going to move to the last game on our slate here. We're talking about, or the last team on our slate here, really, for this week and next week. We're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. And the fact that this week, they have a very, very tough game to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, so look, if you look at most of Jacksonville's losses, they've been within 10 points. They've been very close in a lot of their games. Jacksonville's a way better team than people give them credit for. They're good offensively. Trevor Lawrence has been really good this season. Not a lot of people have talked about it. They're really well coached. Doug Peterson's done a great job. And the defense has been really good too. This is a way better than 4-17, which they are right now. The Ravens are way worse than a 7-4 team, in my opinion. I don't think the Ravens have what it takes at the moment. 2 weeks ago, I probably would have told you something different. But they come out here right now against the Panthers last week and against the Jags this week, and turn in 2 performances where the offense can't get it done early. Finally comes on in the fourth quarter, but doesn't really help. And they barely squeaked by with the win last week. This week they lose by a point. You look at what the defense did in giving up 18 points to the Jags in the fourth quarter. Eric DeCosta, the Ravens GM, has poured over and over money into the defensive side of the ball. So when the defensive side of the ball is that stacked, you have that much talent, you've got to come up clutch in the fourth quarter and not let the Jacksonville Jaguars put up 18 on you and have that 2-point conversion to win the game. They failed over and over in every department, offense, defense, special teams. This was a loss that's not really on one single person, but on the entire team. Lamar Jackson actually played a pretty decent game. I've been critical of him this season, but he actually played a pretty good game. And, having no receivers didn't help him out either. So Greg Roman was terrible. John Harbaugh coached a terrible game. Mike McDonald coached a terrible game. The whole coaching staff was frankly terrible, and that the Ravens lost. They deserved to lose.
I think that's how you lost that game. You got out-coached.
Yeah, they did. They
couldn't. That's what your problem is. I feel like every time in the fourth quarter you're getting out-coached, you should be able to seal off games, and yet the other coach finds a way to win, and that's been your problem. That really hurts against a team like the Jaguars, who you should dominate on the defensive side of the ball, but you don't, and that gives them a chance to win the game, and they do.
Now, very interestingly, I do have to agree. I think Trevor Lawrence has really started to come into his own. He's had a better head coach. He's had a coach who actually cares about football and winning games.
Yeah.
And, not just being in college bars with college girls. So it's good to see that, he's finally taking the step in the right direction. He really does, he's looking like a more and more complete quarterback every single game. Obviously this game he was able to throw for 3 touchdowns, had over 300 yards, really did look effective in every way. So it's good to see that. Now, something I do have to say is that the Ravens are an organization which, in this year, have played down to their competition every chance they get. And that's something that, from a team that's supposed to not only win their division, but really be a Super Bowl contender of sorts, they just don't feel like it. They don't feel like it at all. They're a good team that doesn't win the easy games. They make a lot of mistakes.
They play down to competition.
They
always.
do. And this is something I've been saying about Philadelphia all season, is that good teams don't make mistakes. They win the easy games, they take care of business, and they get the job done.
Yeah.
And this is something we've consistently seen the Ravens just not be able to do. They are not able to consistently get the job done when it matters most. They're playing teams like the Panthers and the Jaguars, and they're really just laying an egg and not making it easy for themselves at all at any point in these games to, not only break away, but to just win these games and really just take control and make a statement. It's time now that the Ravens really do need to have a statement game.
Yeah.
They really need to come up big and really do something to show that not only are they a solid franchise and that they're going to win the division this year, but more or less that they're still a Super Bowl contender. Because as of right now, I think that idea of Super Bowl contention for the Ravens is really hanging in the balance of these next few weeks.
They're going to win the division. I think that's going to be pretty clear. They have an easy schedule here on out, but they don't really deserve to. They really don't.
We'll have to see what Joe Shiesty does. Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow is cold for a reason.
Yeah.
It's because he gets the job done, whether it's Jamar Chase or,
who's coming back.
Even without Jamar Chase, they've looked like a very competent offense with Joe Mixon. And,
without Joe Mixon.
Yeah. I mean, T. Higgins has really been something of a crazy monster. He looks like a 1B to a 1A. And even so, we have guys like, they have guys like Tyler Boyd, who,
still serviceable.
He's an unsung hero for this team. He really does do a lot more things than I think people expect. He's someone who's been very positive for them in the past game and really has been able to help Joe Burrow unlock a lot of these, wide open receivers and really get the job done. So, it's time to move on to the next week's game. We're going to see the Ravens take on the Broncos. And I'm telling you, Goodman, if they can't get the job done here, I'm writing them off.
Look,
I'm saying that they might not even win the division.
Well, they won't. I think that's pretty clear. I think this is a game you have to win, and you have to win it by a good margin. I don't want a 3-point win. I want a 20-point win. I want to see them actually play well in all 3 phases. And they haven't done that for a while. So it'd be really good to see. And, frankly, again, they've been getting out-coached all year. And I'd love to see some accountability, too. I really would. John Harbaugh, it might be time. I hate to say it. I've said it a few times. And this is coming from a guy who supported John Harbaugh through everything. I love the guy. But it might be time to make a change if you can't win easy games like the Jags, like the Broncos. And not that they're super easy games. No NFL game is super easy. But you've got to win the ones that you should win. And those are 2 they should have won.
Oh, no, I definitely agree there. And I'm going to be honest with you. If they cannot beat the Denver Broncos, a team who is, really truly incapable of putting over 16 points a game on the scoreboard, if you're telling me you can't score 20 points, then it's a sad season. I'm sorry. But you know what? My big thing here is that although the Broncos really haven't done much this year offensively, they really have been a stacked team defensively. They found a way to get it done. They really have been effective regardless of Bradley Chubb's presence, after he was traded to Miami. They still look like just the same old defense they've had all year long. They've been strong. They're up there in points and yards and really manhandling other teams. But I think my big issue here is that I could see the Ravens really play down a competition against this next team because their offense has sputtered and spiraled, especially without any receivers. It's going to be difficult to do anything. Yes, Patrick Surtain really only got beat by, a guy named Devontae Adams, who obviously is a top receiver in the league, So I think there is something to be said for that. We really do see this Broncos team have a very, very good ability at shutting down the other team's offense. So honestly, I'm not sure what to come of it. All I know is that, regardless, I haven't even looked at it, but I can almost guarantee you that the under for this game is going to smash.
Look, again, they got to win it. It's a game they got to win, and
It's gonna be a dogfight.
I know the Broncos have a good defense, and they have a severe issue in scoring points. So that should play into the Ravens' favor. But again, the defense has really struggled, especially look at the fourth quarter. In basically every game this year, they've struggled in the fourth quarter. They've got to close it. They've got to find a way to close it.
You can't have Nathaniel Hackett out coach John Harbaugh. You just can't do it.
Can't do
it. That even hurts my heart to say. I'm not gonna lie. As a part-time Ravens fan, it really does hurt to see them play down the competition the way they have been this season. So, staying on that idea of, in need of receivers and really, bolstering your team for the playoffs here. Well, you do have a guy who's been on the free agency market for a little bit, kind of been hanging in the balance of, who will sign him, who won't sign him, what's going on with him, is he doing this, where is he, who's he meeting with, and it's become very interesting, and Odell Beckham Jr. really doesn't have an opportunity here to sign with a team that, really can not only, use his talents, but use his talents to excel and really take on these playoffs, take them on and really go, hey, we're here, we're trying to win a chip, we're trying to make it work. This is gonna be our late season edition to get it done. A little bit past the trade deadline, so this is really probably the only true potential superstar you can even get. That's even available at this point. So I think it'll be interesting. And now I do have 4 teams that I do want to discuss with you guys. So obviously we'll get it out the way right now. We just previously talked about him. Now, will Odell Beckham Jr. land with the Baltimore Ravens?
No. I'm going to tell you right now. No. I wish I could say I even had hope, but no. They failed at literally every time they tried to get a receiver, whether it was DeAndre Hopkins, they were very close to getting that trade done, getting him. There are so many free agents we hear about. Kenny Galladay, not that he's really succeeded at all, but there's been a lot of guys that we've heard they were so close to getting and they never have. So I have zero confidence because I know the Ravens and they don't do this kind of thing. They don't go out and actually try to improve the receiving core. I don't know why. It's organizational philosophy, but it sucks.
This match is almost made in heaven, and yet, your GM is just not going to make it happen.
Yeah, for a team without really any receivers, it is kind of sad to say that we're not going to see Odell, join an exciting quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Probably the most exciting quarterback on our entire list of teams here. Actually, he is the most exciting quarterback on our entire list here by a large margin. So, we'll get that out of the way. Now we're going to move on to another team that he's been rumored to go to, which is the New York Giants. Now, personally, I'm really not a fan of this. I don't think it makes all that much sense. I know they're a 7-5 team. They've played very well up until this point. But regardless of what anybody really wants to say, they're really pretty much devoid of all talent. I mean, yeah, they have Saquon, and yeah, they have the Wizard and Brian Dable, but beyond Brian Dable and Saquon, what have they been able to do that effectively? Yes, their defensive line has been good, but there is only so much that you can point out and really go, they've excelled in this year. They've been very efficient in it this year. And I almost question, does Odell really want to play for a second, potentially third wild card team coming up? I know it's a previous organization he's been with, and I understand that, but for someone who's coming off an ACL tear, does he really want to play on the MetLife field again? A field that has constantly caused people issues, so much so that they're going to be replacing the turf field next year with a brand new field because it's caused so many injuries. It's been such a big issue to all the players playing on this grass. I don't know if this is really a match made in heaven for Odell here.
I think if the Giants do end up signing Odell, it's going to be a multi-year deal. They're going to look for the long run, because if they get Odell this year, they'll be the playoff team. They'll play that wild card game. It'll look really good for them for the future, and that's the whole point. You get him for the future. You build off that skill. He is your number one. If you sign a number 2, you get it. He's your number 2. That it's a long-term investment for him. I don't know if Odell would want to do it to say, but maybe the coaching staff is a lot better and he's intrigued by that. That'd be the only reason to me.
I really have a hard time saying that Odell's going to sign anything more than a 1-year deal. I think it's really just a, hey, I'm here, I'm going to help your team, and I'm going to try and get paid in the offseason, really make some money when he's truly fully healthy, or at least that's what he's hoping for.
Maybe the Giants give him that money, though, right away. That's why I think the Giants are the favorite to second favorite. They would give him that money right now.
I think that'd be a little, I'm not going to lie to you, Adam, I think it'd be a little crazy to, especially this late in the season, really hand someone a fat multi-year deal like Odell's going to expect. I don't know if you're going to be able to pay this guy, $15 million a year. Even if you give him a 2-year, $30 million deal, is it really going to be worth it this late in the season, where all of a sudden you're going to cash him out and then he's going to make 15 next
maybe
year?
a player option the next year. I don't know.
I
It
think
has
it's
to be
gonna be very
multi-year
interesting.
to be investing in the next season, because they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but they're looking towards the next year. He'd be somebody for next year.
Fair enough, fair enough. So now we'll move on to another team. We only have 2 more teams left in the slate, and this team I would say is probably going to be a little bit more successful than the Giants. A team who's been rumored to all season long, and a team that I truly, truly hate with a passion, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys. So I don't know. I get it. It makes sense. Obviously, we've seen the resurgence of Michael Gallup really be an effective thing for this Dallas team. Really help elevate them to the next level. But at the same time, I can't say that adding Odell would hurt. I think having another option, especially in the red zone, really only makes them a bigger threat come playoff time. Really, being able to distribute the ball at will to anybody between Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, both running backs, and Pollard and Zeke. They really do have a lot of guys who can score points, and I think adding a guy like Odell could really be effective. We saw how he played with the Los Angeles Rams. Really wasn't a big yards after catch guy.
Right.
More or less was a big time catch receiver. A lot of touchdowns for him. Really a great, may I say, offensive threat for them, especially in the red zone. And I think this makes probably a lot of sense for both parties here. We really can see Dallas possibly. I don't think it'll happen, but we could see them possibly take the division. I think that's within everybody's right to say. It's possible.
It's definitely still possible.
It's improbable. It's improbable.
It's
but
unlikely.
It's possible.
Anything's possible. I've watched enough football where I can tell you that games like that, or really divisions like that and teams like that, are really going to change all the time. So it's possible that, the Eagles might win every game. They might lose every game from here on out. That could help out Dallas. Who knows? It's still a long season left. There's a lot of games and a lot of consequential ones. So Dallas definitely has a chance. But I'm not sure Odell really moves the needle for them like he does for a lot of other teams. I think the Ravens could benefit.
I think even the next team on our list, really, he would move the needle significantly more for.
Really, I think for any other team, because Dallas has a lot of guys already. They've got weapons. I mean, they've got 2 great running backs. Like you mentioned, Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb. These are really good receiving targets as well. This is a good team already. I'm not sure they really need Odell in that lineup, but it certainly wouldn't hurt.
It's the same exact thing as Odell going to the Rams last year, though.
It's true.
They had so many weapons to
Cooper
begin
Kupp,
with.
sure, yeah.
Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods.
And you throw a guy like that on your team, that really does help unlock your receiving core and really spread. You could really spread the ball around at will. It really does move the secondary around. I think it makes more of an on-field presence than what we would expect to see, versus Odell on any other team.
Yes.
So, we're going to move on to our last team here. A team that really, I don't think he's been rumored to, but a team that I think he makes a lot of sense for, and that would be the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans, I know they have Treylon Burks, a guy who's been injured all year. As of late, he started to really pick it up. We saw him have an awkward touchdown the other day, which really helped boost his fantasy points. But in that contest, he did have 70 receiving yards. And in the contest before, he had, I believe, 70-plus yards again. Mm-hmm. So this is a guy that, since he's been healthy, has really looked like a pretty decent receiver for them. On top of that, I know they have Robert Woods, an aging guy who hasn't been the same since he left the Rams. He really hasn't had that same pep in his step since he tore his ACL. Yeah. But I think that there's something to be said that, Odell could step in there, really, help that team be an effective team and more or less just move the ball down the field. Odell's a good receiver. He's great at getting 10 yards. And getting 10 yards and really moving that ball up and down the field, really getting someone besides Derrick Henry to be a vocal point of your offense, I think would really go a long way for this Tennessee Titan team, especially, they're in a weak division. It's very clear that they're going to win the AFC South. And I think if they were to bolster up their team a little bit more, especially this late in the season, could really make them a threat. Yeah. In this upcoming AFC divisional playoffs.
He's an investment for the playoffs, obviously, because they're going to win the division, and I think he definitely helps out in that play action their whole play action offense, and it would help boost them so much more. And it's their missing piece. It's really what they need.
I really do.
It's agree. It's a great fit.
It's a phenomenal fit. I mean, this is going to be a guy who has superstar potential for a team that really hasn't had a great receiver. Outside of the fact of A.J. Brown in the past couple of years. Yeah. So to add a guy like this would really help, I think do a lot of great things for the team. Even open up guys like Robert Woods and A.J. I'm sorry, wrong team. open up guys like Treylon Burks and Robert Woods and really help this offense flourish, especially for a young guy like Treylon Burks. There's a lot to learn from a guy who's had so much success
No doubt.
at this NFL level, And Odell's a guy who's really gotten to enjoy all that type of success and even beyond. I mean, he was a guy that we really thought was comparable to Randy Moss in the very early stages of his career, which, obviously he's nothing close to it. But, I think that's a fair statement to make here. I really do. So, Odell, it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. Boys, before we end this Odell segment, I want to know, Adam, where do you think Odell's going to go? Give me one team, flat out, no explanation. What do you got here?
I'll say New York Giants.
Really?
To the Giants. Yes. Goodman, who do you got?
Give me the Titans. I really like that fit. I don't know if that's the most probable, but I feel like that's the one my gut's telling me to do. So, okay. Give me Titans.
And I'll be honest with you, as much as I like where you're heading with this, Goodman, I really do think that he's going to end up on the Cowboys, lurking around for Philadelphia later this season, and all
Certainly
of a sudden, it's going to be Odell pops up out of nowhere, and he's a fucking Cowboy.
I would be the least surprised person probably, because he's a guy who just kind of feels like a Cowboy. You know how players give off that feel? He gives off the feel of a Cowboy.
He's a ring chaser.
Right, ring chaser. He's a little bit controversial. That's kind of the Cowboy way. But the Titans fit, man, he would fit that offense so perfectly. I can't even imagine how well he would do in that offense. He'd have so many opportunities, and it'd frankly make them a lot better of a team.
Oh, fair enough. Now, before I let you boys go, I got two more things to say here. First off, I want to start off with Deshaun Watson is going to be coming back this week to play his old team, the Houston Texans. The Cleveland Browns are going to be taking on the Houston Texans this week at a 1 o'clock window game. Probably the most exciting game out of all the 1 o'clock slated games, just because we get to see Deshaun Watson, a guy who is so electric in the past, really, in a league that we've seen quarterback just be such a struggle for so many teams that didn't expect quarterback to be such a difficult position for them this year. We're really going to get to see a guy who has been a superstar in the past, hasn't played in so long, has had many allegations against him. Now, I really do want to know, he's been practicing for the past couple weeks for the Browns. I mean, he was cleared for practice, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. He does have a little bit of, he has the system a little bit down. He's gotten to play with the ones a little bit, really kind of figure out how this offense is going to work under Kevin Stefanski. And I think it's going to be an interesting game. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. As a football fan, I hate to say it, but I almost can see the Houston Texans taking this game away from the Browns, really making it a very, very interesting game, a very odd game. Yeah. But for a guy who hasn't played football in 2 years, it's not going to be super easy to just hop back in the game and play at that NFL level. We see the NFL speed be a very different speed than college, and a very different speed for guys who just haven't played football in 2 years. I mean, this is a guy I drafted on my dynasty team when the league started damn near 3 years ago, and I barely got any run out of him. He's been sitting on my bench because he just has so much talent. He's so special as a player that I couldn't bring myself to go, hey, you know what, I invested a third-round pick in this guy. I can't just get rid of him. So, I am excited to see what he does. He does have guys like Amari Cooper and a guy like Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I really think can unlock Donovan Peoples-Jones. I really think that late in the season we're going to see him be a guy that, you wish you picked up on your fantasy roster, especially if Deshaun Watson can unlock that old ability he had with the Houston Texans. Now, I really do want to hear, do you guys have any takes on this? Are you guys interested at all by the prospect of Deshaun Watson, a premier level quarterback, at least from what we've seen in the past, step back into the NFL spotlight?
There's no way the Browns lose this game. The Houston Texans are a joke of a team deprived of skill. They're not going to win this game. It'll be Brown. All that matters is how he looks in the offense. That's what I'll be watching.
Deprived of skill. I love that. I agree. He might not have a good game. He might throw for 150 yards and throw 3 interceptions, and it wouldn't surprise me. But Texans are, as the Dolphins showed this week, pretty much the easiest team to beat in the NFL.
I would say outside of the Panthers, and I hate to say it for you as a Ravens fan.
Well, you know what? 4 wins.
The Panthers they just put up a nice win this week, though. They actually, what did they beat the Broncos by? A pretty good margin, I believe. So
but the Broncos, you know what? I would say maybe the Broncos are the easiest team in the
league. They might be worse.
It's either the Broncos or the Texans here. Some pretty terrible performances by both teams this season. So it will be interesting moving forward. And to end off the episode, it's something I like to do, something I want to be a little bit more consistent with here, and that's the theme of the week. Now, the theme of the week is special to me because it's something that, maybe it doesn't happen every week, maybe it does, but it's something that happens really in large volume, and I think that, it's something that a lot of people miss because you'll watch Red Zone, you'll watch all these NFL games, and all of a sudden you'll see a million fumbles one week. You'll see a bunch of special team returns one week. Maybe you see a bunch of interceptions or a million touchdowns to one guy on every team, which does happen. And it's always weird how I see a lot of these coincidences where a lot of the NFL teams seemingly are doing a lot of the same things in games across the country at different times.
Yeah.
And and they're completely unrelated to one another. But I always think it's something interesting to talk about. Now, the theme of the week for this week is going to be 2-point conversions, and not just any 2-point conversions. 2-point conversions for them W's, baby, them W's. Because you know what? We saw two teams really go out here this week and put their life on the line, put that W on the line, and say, you know what? We're gonna take it. We want this W. We want this game. We're gonna take what is ours and really run away with it here. And we got to see that from the Los Angeles Chargers as they beat the Cardinals, which was a very exciting game. And we even got to see it out of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a little bit more unexpected, but not unexpected from a guy like Dougie P, a guy who's been known to go for 2-point conversions, a lot of fourth downs. A guy who really is willing to put all of his cards and all of his chips in the middle and say, you know what? Let's see what you got, baby.
Staley does the same thing, and the Chargers needed that one definitely more than the Jaguars. They're fighting for that wild card playoff spot. Good for them.
Especially in a tough division. I mean, that's a huge divisional win for them, and I really think that.
It's not in
I'm sorry, it's not in division. I apologize. I apologize, folks. But really, a big win for them, and something that'll really help them move forward here, especially as the Chargers race towards a playoff spot, hopefully as a wild card team.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be very interesting. So yeah, the theme of the week for this week is definitely 2-point conversions for that W. Now, Idiots fans, I really like to say thank you. We really appreciate you here in the studio. Really, really, it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to me that you guys listen, especially if you made it through all the way to the end of the episode. So, from Idiot number 2, my friend Adam.
Happy to be here, as always.
Idiot number 3, my friend Goodman.
Dude, let's go Ravens, but I'm not getting too confident anymore. But I'm gonna say it every week still. Let's go Ravens.
Fair enough. And from your host, Idiot number 1, my name's Zach. Folks, it's really been a pleasure to have you. It's been an honor, especially if you've listened this far. So, I'd like to say thank you, have a great day, and to leave you with one thing, go Birds, baby.